Welcome to December's Tech of the Month, where we discuss all the latest news and reviews. This month, we're going to take a closer look at the brand new bikes of the newly named Decathlon-AG2R La Mondiale. We're also going to be taking a look back at some of our favourite pieces of tech, to which you can find all the links for down below. And we're also going to crown our favourite road bike of the year, so let's get into it.
This week we have big news coming out of the pro cycling sphere. Brown bib shorts are officially gone. Sports retail giant Decathlon has committed 5 years of support, renaming AG2R Citroën to Decathlon-AG2R La Mondiale. Alongside Decathlon support, 6 new riders have also been announced to the World Tour squad, including Sam Bennett and Tour stage winner Victor Lafay.
So we've known for a while that they're going to be going on to some Van Rysel bikes, but tell us more about the bikes and, I think more importantly, the spec of those bikes.
So they're going to be on the RCR Pro race bikes. Now, these have been around since August, so not exactly new, but they are going to be fitted out with full Dura-Ace Di2 group sets, Swiss side wheels, and also Dada integrated handlebar and stem. So a little bit of a bling upgrade to what's currently on the market.
Are these bikes going to be commercially available? Are Decathlon going to be selling these as full builds?
As full builds, we're not sure yet. As I say, you can currently buy the bike in a SRAM Rival Access build with a Zip 303 wheel set, and it actually comes in at £4,299 here in the UK.
But, I mean, do you think there's any disadvantage to the team being on these bikes? I mean, obviously, with such a good value product, is it all it's shaped up to be, or are the pros going to be at a disadvantage, or actually have Decathlon come in, offered something absolutely incredible, and now, you know, the big boys are going to be starting to worry?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that. I mean, none of us at the Cycling Weekly offices have actually had a chance to ride the RCR Pro yet. It has to be said, I'd be really interested too. I think Decathlon has taken a huge step forward in their technology. You can see it's fully integrated. It really looks like an up-to-date 2023-2024 bike. But, I mean, there is that element of it's coming in at a lower price point. Will it have the same R&D budget? Will it have the same engineering tolerances? That remains to be seen. But generally speaking, we have to remember it's the rider, not the bike. And I think it's really positive to see a brand like Decathlon coming into the world of cycling at this sort of turbulent time in the industry. We've got a lot of brands struggling, and to see a big name come into the sport with lots of sponsorship and a big sponsorship deal is really positive.
Although, I won't lie, I don't know how I feel about the lack of a brown shorts, because as much as I always hated them, they were a bit of an institution in cycling. On some level, I'm going to be sad to see them go.
Really, I think, to be quite frank, they cannot go soon enough. They've been around far too long, and I'm so happy to see black shorts be ridden by that team.
Let us know down below, what do you think about brown shorts leaving the peloton? We're going to move on to our favourite tech of the year now, and as I said at the beginning, everything that we're about to talk about is linked down in the description box below. But we're going to start off with a multi-tool that you've had on test, and I believe that's a Topeak Mini multi-tool?
Yes, so I've got the Topeak Mini PT30 multi-tool. I've had this multi-tool for over 2 years now, and I've used it pretty extensively with absolutely no issue. I've taken it from Munich to Florence on a bike packing trip, and it just really handles everything I need it to do. It's got a chain tool, spoke keys, everything from a 2mm to a 10mm Allen key, Torx keys, tyre levers. It's even got a bottle opener.
Wow, that is pretty good. I mean, I think one thing with multi-tools that I always tend to think about is the fact that there's so many available on the market. What is it for you that sets that apart from others?
2 things. Firstly, the form factor. When this is folded up, it is absolutely tiny. It's pretty flat as well, so it easily fits in a jersey pocket. Yeah. The other thing, which you see a massive disparity between sort of a nice quality multi-tool and something you'll get off Amazon, is the quality of the metals. Now, something like this, I've never rounded a bolt. All of the tool heads are still in really good condition. I guarantee for some multi-tools that would not be the case after 2 years of use.
That's a good point. How do you find it to actually use on the bike? Because some can be so clunky that they're actually really hard to manoeuvre around tight spots within the bike. Has that been okay?
Yeah, it's not been too bad. I think the other thing is this is quite a narrow multi-tool. So some multi-tools, if they're really wide, you can't really fit them in the sort of...
Yeah, the places where you actually need them to go, and they're just not that ergonomic, but that, I think, sits in like a nice middle ground of giving you all the tools you actually need whilst putting it in a package that you can actually use.
Exactly. It's a form factor that offers enough leverage to sort of get a good amount of torque on bolts, but at the same time, it's not overly bulky. Great multi-tool. Now, next up, I think I'm right in saying we've got a road bike.
Indeed, our longest serving tech writer, Hannah Bussey, had the Wilier Filante SLR Ultegra on test, and she published her review on that back in May, and it achieved the full 5 stars. Now, to use her very own words, she said that the bike was incredibly agile, incredibly strong, lightweight, and it provided a very comfortable ride. She said that the spec left for absolutely nothing. It's essentially the most complete package that she had found on a bike. She really enjoyed the wheel set and the tyre combo. And thanks to Wilier's kind of fit options, it meant that if you wanted to, you could go down the route of having something which is really tailored to you. The other thing that she did mention was that she really liked the easy fit spacers. So on the steerer tube, if you wanted to take some out to then adjust stem height, you can do that, because obviously a lot of integrated cockpits can be really a bit of a faff actually to try and adjust anything. So she was a really big fan of that. The only downside that she did mention was the fact that it was very expensive. I think here in the UK, it comes in just shy of that 10 grand mark. I think over in the States, you're closer to the 12 or 13 grand mark. So it's a lot of money. That being said, a lot of top-end bikes are sitting within that, that world.
Absolutely, it's definitely in the ballpark, isn't it?
Well, exactly. So it is a fantastic option, but you do have to pay for it. Next to you though, Mr. Baker, because I believe that you've had a pretty nice jacket on test from Specialized.
Correct, yes. I have been using now for the last few months the Specialized Alpha Prime jacket. It's a thermal jacket, it's windproof, it's really packable, and that is the best thing about this jacket. Its warmth to pocket real estate ratio is brilliant. That's all thanks to an outer shell, which is sort of quite a thin, almost rain cape material. In fact, it is water resistant. And inside, it's got this kind of sewn-in merino wool, and that just provides so much warmth. It's absolutely brilliant for example, if you're sat at the cafe, it's that perfect sort of middle ground for you want something in your pocket that's going to keep you warm and keep the wind off, but, it's also really packable. It's brilliant.
Okay, so it's not waterproof. It doesn't have tape seams, so in a downpour, its water will come through, but I guess in that kind of light misty rain and windier days, that's where that jacket really kind of excels itself.
Exactly right. And I think the other thing to mention, I've used this garment well outside its sort of cycling remit. I've taken it to the Alps when I went hiking for a week, and I actually, for the entire week, just used it as an underlayer. I slept in it even when it was really cold at night, and it's just so comfortable and so warm, and also when space is at a premium, it's just my go-to.
Fair enough. I mean, it does look really cool, and the fabric and the feeling of it, it feels like a premium product. Obviously, again, it costs, but it seems like a really good jacket.
I think genuinely as well, it's probably one of the best value pieces of cycling kit I've ever owned. In a world where you can very easily pay £200 or £300 for a winter jacket, using this as a layer, I think is actually a really good value option.
Wow.
Next up, we've got some super lightweight finishing kit.
That's right. Our North American editor, Rook, used the Cadex AMP Saddle earlier this year when she was racing at Unbound Gravel. And it's fair to say that she tested that thing to its limits, because that was a pretty tough course, because she did actually do the XL route, which I think is 350 kilometers, 200 miles. It is very, very long. But despite that, I think one of the most impressive things about the saddle was actually its weight. It's only 130 grams, thanks to the carbon rails and the composite shell. But another thing that she did note was that the wings of the saddle actually had a surprising amount of comfort in them and a surprising amount of padding in them. It does follow that same kind of short nose, wide wing design like the Specialized Power Saddle and the Versique Vento Argo saddle. But she found with this one, it was a little bit easier to move around on it. When she'd used the Specialized Power Saddle in the past, she found that she was kind of locked into a position, and her riding style is one where she does like to move around a little bit more. So that Cadex saddle actually kind of helped with that, and I think it's probably down to that leather coating that's on top of it. I think it's just that little bit easier to slide around. Now, that might not suit everybody, and if you do like to just stay in one place, then perhaps the Specialized Power Saddle would be for you. But she got on really well with it. Obviously, saddles are an incredibly personal thing, but that being said, I think if you're after something really lightweight and pretty comfortable, then the Cadex AMP Saddle could be one to check out. Next up, I think we've got some tyres. Talk to me.
Correct. I'm about to make some big claims. So I have used the Pirelli Cinturato Velo TLR tyres for quite a while. I've used them for about 2 seasons through the winter, and they are the only tubeless tyre, mountain bike or road, that I've never had an issue with. So that includes setup, punctures, I've never crashed, they're grippy. I cannot fault these tyres in the time that I've had them. I think I had one set through a winter that I think I did about 2,000 miles on. Pretty heavy winter of riding, and I genuinely had not one single puncture, which in Oxfordshire roads, where I live, is really saying something.
Wow, that is pretty impressive, actually. I think for tyres, I mean, it can be one of those things of you were just lucky, but I think if you have been using them exclusively through winter, that's some pretty good luck.
Yeah, it's worth noting as well that by the end of that particular winter of riding, these tyres were pretty worn out. They had lots of nicks in them, bits of dirt, bits of grime, bits of glass, and I still hadn't gotten a single puncture, which for me, that's the icing on the cake, really.
Wow, so these would probably get the full 5 stars.
Absolutely, 5 stars for me. Next up, we've got something for all you bike packers out there looking for a bit of extra storage. We've got a top tube bag.
Indeed, and it comes from Tailfin, the people that created that aero pannier rack. And this bag comes in 3 different sizes, and it's something which I think is incredibly applicable, especially to bikes these days, because now you're getting more and more bikes with mounting points on the top tube. It's kind of becoming a little bit more standard. And I really like the look of this bag, and so did Stefan, who a lot of you will know from previous Tech of the Month episodes. He was out in Morocco earlier this year, and he rode with a couple of the different bags, and he was saying that it's brilliant because the 2 larger sizes of the bag you can either have in a fully zipped version, or you can have it with a kind of a flap cover. The fully zipped versions are entirely waterproof, and one of the biggest highlights that he kind of mentioned was the fact that you get very minimal knee rub. So if you're getting out the saddle and your legs are going past that area of the top tube, thanks to its design, your knees aren't actually hitting it, which I think is a really big benefit. And I mean, I was also thinking about personally, if I were to be riding with a bag like this, I think I would actually probably go for that flapped option, because I think with a top tube bag, the beauty is that you can get to things whilst you're on the move. For me, it kind of makes sense to have just loads of nutrition kind of packed in there, so you can just keep your carb intake nice and high. And just on a wider point about top tube bags, I think they just make so much sense, because anything that allows you to get gear out of your back pockets and out of your jersey is only a good thing. And like I say, I think this option from Tailfin is arguably one of the best that's currently on the market. Again, it does cost, but it's incredibly good quality.
Finally, I've got one more honourable mention to the Col Pro Bib Shorts 2s. I've used these now for about a year, and I've tested loads and loads of different kit this year, and every single time I keep going back to these. A couple of reasons. Firstly, for myself, they just fit so unbelievably well. Obviously, that's personal. I'm about 6 foot tall and generally sit between sort of 68 and 70 kilograms, and these size smalls fit really well. There's plenty of leg length, which I quite like. I don't really like sort of shorter cycling shorts. The other thing as well is the chamois is really good quality. Same goes for all the stitching, in fact, really good quality. I've never had any discomfort or saddle sores, and I just keep going back to them.
Fair enough. I mean, they do look pretty good. I think I might have used a similar pair and really got on with them as well. If you are keen to see the full 2023 Gear of the Year roundup, then be sure to pick up the next copy of the Cycling Weekly magazine, because Joe and the rest of the tech team have put a lot of time and effort into it. Finally, since it's December's Tech of the Month, we decided that we would crown our Bike of the Year. Now, when me and Joe were talking about this earlier, we basically landed exactly on the same bike without really knowing we would. But I don't think it would be a surprise, because we have both chosen the Specialized Tarmac SL8 as our Bike of the Year, because quite frankly, well, I think it's just fantastic, but you've spent a lot more time with the bike. Tell me why you love it so much.
Yeah, I think it was fairly unanimous, wasn't it, really? There's just so many things I can compliment this bike on. I've had it for a few months now. In fact, it's just gone back, which I'm particularly sad about. But after a few hundred miles, it's so good, it's almost hard to pick anything specific out. So the stiffness, for example, it's so stiff that you don't really notice it, which is a real compliment. It just rides underneath you perfectly. You never have to think about it. Same with the handling. The front end is so precise. You can absolutely throw it down descents, which is brilliant for a race bike. The weight as well, again, is just how responsive the bike was on climbs. It feels like a climbing bike.
Yeah.
But then you get it up to speed with the 50mm Roval wheel set, and it rolls as good as really quite a few aero bikes have tested this year, which is just a sort of, it's quite a strange sensation.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I think that's one thing that I love about the SL8 over and above the SL7, is that the SL8 really does hold its speed better than the SL7, and you're not kind of working as hard at the higher end speeds. I feel like it's a more complete bike from, you know, rolling around fairly slowly to being, you know, right up towards, you know, the 40, 50k mark.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think really that is fundamentally what the Specialized Tarmac SL8 is. It's the best race bike on the market. If anything, that's my only criticism really, is it does everything so well that it's almost slightly generic. And I think that I don't want that to come across as negative, because really I absolutely love the bike. But it's not necessarily the most flamboyant bike in the world, but it's definitely the fastest, it's stiffest, it's plenty light enough to come in sort of on the UCI weight limit. So for anyone that's really looking to race, for us personally, if money's no object, it's a no-brainer.
That's the thing, if money is no object. The only thing, the last question I'll ask you though, is as we look forwards to 2024, when we believe there to be quite a few new lightweight race bikes coming, is there something potentially that could challenge for the crown? What do you think could come out that could potentially steal the SL8's thunder?
Yeah, I think firstly, that's going to be no mean feat. Any brand that manages to do that, fair play to them. I think Trek's overdue an Emonda, and if the Emonda does continue to go down that route of an all-round race bike with sort of slightly more aerodynamic tube profiles whilst maintaining that low weight, I think it could do that.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's really the most likely. How about you, Sam?
I think there's only one other bike that I think I'm really looking forward to next year, and that would be a potential new Scott Addict. The Scott Addict has always been an incredibly lightweight race bike, and you know, since it is due an update, it's now kind of fallen behind the times. So I think if Scott do release a new Addict, I think it will be incredibly lightweight and incredibly punchy. So whether or not it balances any sort of aero features with the new model, maybe then it could challenge for the SL8 crown. Otherwise, it could just end up being like one of the best hill climb bikes out there. But like I say, those are the bikes that we think might be coming next year, but what we do know is that the SL8 is in the here and the now, and we both absolutely love it. Let us know down in the comments below which of the pieces of tech we've spoken about today you would love to try, and what you think of the Tarmac SL8. If you enjoyed the video, then please do drop it a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and we will see you again very soon.